A Cowboy's Trust, Cowboys of Cottontail Junction, Book 1, written by Lena Turner. Chapter 1. Rex walked to the front of his coffee shop. The Black Bean flipped the sign on the door from closed to open and unlocked the door. The sign wasn't really necessary. Everyone in the town of Cottontail Junction knew exactly when he opened and closed, but for him it was a ritual. There was something soothing about flipping the sign around, signaling he was ready to start the day making coffee for the townspeople. He always made sure to open about 10 minutes earlier than posted so he wouldn't have a short line of early morning regulars waiting. He didn't like to make anyone wait, even when they were early and he was on time. He went back behind the counter where a pot of coffee had just finished brewing. None of that fancy latte stuff for the ranchers who came in at 5 in the morning for coffee and gossip, though none of them would ever admit to gossiping. He lined 4 cups up on the counter, ready to pour the minute they walked in. Like clockwork, at 1 minute to 5, the 4 men came through the door. You'd almost think they rode together, but no, their timing was just impeccable. "Good morning, gentlemen," Rex said, grabbing the pot and filling their cups as they each nodded. They took their coffee and headed to the back, always the same table, even though they could sit anywhere. Rex understood. It was their routine, just like he enjoyed his own. He didn't need to open so early, since business didn't really pick up until closer to 6, but he didn't mind. When he'd first returned to Cottontail Junction after being discharged from the military, he'd opened at 6. One morning, a rancher knocked on the door, saw him inside, and asked for a cup. Before long, that one customer brought friends, and they all started showing up early, assuming Rex would let them in. After a couple of months, he simply changed the hours. He was there anyway. Truth be told, he liked the quiet company, knowing they were in the corner while he baked in the back before the morning rush. He had a couple of part-time high school students who worked afternoons, but mornings and daytime were his. He liked staying busy, and busy he was. When he first announced his plan to open a coffee shop with pastries and sweet treats, people hadn't exactly been encouraging. Not to his face, most folks in Cottontail Junction were polite, but more than one person had doubts that fancy coffee would sell in a ranching town. Rex understood. There had been a time he would have agreed. If someone had told him he'd one day enjoy baking and making coffee for a living, he would have laughed them out of town. He hadn't returned with a grand business plan, just the certainty that he couldn't go back to his old life. There were too many memories. He also knew he didn't want city life. He'd spent his early years in a larger city and never felt at home there. After his parents died, he'd moved to Cottontail Junction to live with his grandmother, and over time, the town became home. He met Gwen in grade school, lost touch when he moved, then ran into her again at a high school football game. Sparks flew, and they'd been together ever since. Back then, he didn't know much about coffee, just that he liked it. But it had been Gwen's dream to open a coffee shop in her hometown. When he opened the Black Bean, he felt those shared dreams come alive, even though he was doing it alone. Around 7:30, business slowed, and as he restocked baked goods, he heard someone approach the counter. "Hey, Colette," he said to the blonde woman standing there. Colette Gallagher, along with her sisters, were regulars. She smiled and ordered her usual decaf latte, joking about enjoying it while she still could before the baby came or a snowstorm trapped her at home. Rex told her he'd started stocking syrups and offered to send her home with her favorite as a baby gift. He rang her up without asking her order. He prided himself on remembering everyone's drink and started her latte. They chatted about her husband Brock and how busy his veterinary practice had gotten. Then she mentioned her sister Miriam had hired a new sous chef. Rex kept his tone casual, though he knew exactly who she meant. He'd noticed the woman at a recent wedding, Marley. In a small town, it was hard to be subtle. Colette also placed a takeout order for Miriam, her usual latte and a hot chocolate. Rex raised an eyebrow. Hot chocolate wasn't Miriam's usual, but shrugged it off. He handed Colette her drink and added a pistachio brownie on the house, asking for feedback on the new recipe.
After she left, he made Miriam's order, doubling the cups to keep them warm for the drive, and added 2 brownies. When the door opened again, the woman from the wedding walked in. Her long brown hair was tied in a braided ponytail, and though she looked about his age, there was something fragile about her, especially in her eyes. "I'm here to pick up an order," she said quietly. "For Miriam?" he asked, and she nodded. He handed her the carrier, and she hesitated, saying the order seemed wrong. Rex smiled. "You must be the hot chocolate drinker. I like to think I know what everyone orders. This one was new." She admitted she preferred simple coffee with cream, and he confided he wasn't much for fancy drinks either. For a moment, her smile reached her eyes, lighting her face before fading again. He told her the pastries were on the house and asked for feedback. She thanked him, paid, and left. Rex watched her go, feeling something stir, something unfamiliar and unwelcome. He pushed it down quickly. He had his shop, his routine, his new life in Cottontail Junction. He didn't need anything to complicate that. His heart wouldn't survive it.